Okay. Hi, hello, where am I? Let me start my video and let me also start the chat. Let me just find that. Okay. All right. So this is our third workshop, and welcome to everybody here. And what I thought I would do today is quickly review the first two workshops so we kind of have it fresh in our minds, what we did, what we learned, and then we will arrive at what I want to cover today, as a kind of coherent picture. So in the first workshop, we set up our magnetic intention. Very different from setting a goal. Magnetic intention taps us into our deeper truth, our deeper reality. And the thing about our magnetic intention is we can know that science has proven that magnetic intention makes a difference. It is effective. There was that, I remind you guys of that 28-year study at Princeton, where they did a lot of research of all kinds on intention, group, individual intention. Intention doesn't follow the rules of time and space, like in our 3D reality, because it's part of quantum reality. It's a subatomic energy. And so that's why when we really set a deep intention and then we learn how to activate it, it can make a difference and help us shift into more of our own feminine power. And then in the second workshop, we did an exercise in which we looked at how to get to know some of the voices internally that are parts of ourself. They're called subpersonalities. If we don't know who they are and we don't know how to listen to them, it can be really difficult because it can cause inner conflict. It can cause us to procrastinate because we're not sure what's going on, and so we hesitate to make important decisions. And here's the really interesting thing is that once you know them and you check in with them, you'll feel a little bit calmer inside. You'll feel like, yeah, I get this. This is all part of me. I'm a complex person. And the end goal of all these voices, of these subpersonalities, is to come together and work together. They're not meaning to distract you like the inner critic. The inner critic is deeper. The inner critic is a little harder to access in the voices of the inner critic, but that subpersonality realm is really fascinating to access, easy to access, and really quite a powerful thing to be able to do. Then I want to go over the whole process of how we become unstoppable in our lives at this point. We don't have to say, I like saying feminine power. We don't have to say our feminine power. We could say our personal power. We could say woman power. But the thing I like about feminine power is it connects us to this return of the feminine that you hear people talking about now. That we are at a time when consciousness is shifting. In spite of all the dreadful things that are going on in our world right now, there is also this hopeful shift of awareness that it is time for women to step into leadership. And I think that's what we're called to. It doesn't mean we're going to ignore what we want in our personal life, but at a very deep level, wherever we learn to be more authentic and impactful, it matters. It really matters the way we touch the lives of other people. So you can say what makes sense to you, but I really like feminine power. And feminine power doesn't mean we're going to start wearing ruffles. So I wanted to review some of the places where women are still suffering and feeling stuck. Just, to kind of go through and say, does any of this resonate with me still, that it's still a problem? And the biggest one is the gap, feeling the gap between what you sense your powers are, what you kind of intuit you're capable of, but you haven't gotten there yet, and you're just frustrated and you don't know the steps or what skills you need to learn in your particular case, and we're all different. So that's like the overview biggest problem that we struggle with. And what happens as we try to figure it out is that up come those inner critical voices just when we're starting to move forward, and they can knock us backward, and it's like, damn, this is frustrating. Um, so, and so they can be this kind of nagging feeling that you're not quite enough. I think one of the most difficult things for women to do is to set boundaries. We were so heavily socialized to always be there for everybody. And we forgot that it's okay, or maybe we were never told it was okay to be there for ourselves. And therefore, what we do is we exhaust ourselves. A lot of women are suffering from stress. Women make up 80% of the stress-related diseases now. Why is that? Because we're working, we're trying to do the family thing, we're trying to do the shopping, keep the house beautiful. It's not possible. You have to carve out time for you. If you don't, you're not going to have the energy. And, I don't want to see anybody, having that level of stress that they're not able to function the way they want to. To realize yourself, you need to take care of yourself. And sometimes, a lot of women actually experience this, feeling invisible. You go to a meeting, you're really nice. I learned some of this stuff because my mother wanted me to be modest and nice. So I learned to quiet my own voice. It's very common for women to not have learned that skill to be authentically impactful, to say, hi, I'm here, this is what I do, I do this and that in the world, and I can help you. Would you want to meet with me? And we'll talk about how, I'm thinking in terms particularly of business mixers that I've been to, and how some women say, I don't know how to presence myself. I don't know what that skill is. And so there's also, I wanted to mention anger. I don't think a lot of people want to talk about anger, and it's very, very important because anger is an intelligent emotion. It tells you when injustice is happening, and we all experienced injustices, and we still do experience them. That doesn't mean we're going to fly into a rage, but it makes us more aware that it's okay to be angry. It doesn't mean we're going to, fly into some kind of attack or anything. We can transform it. We can know this is righteous anger. This is important. I've always liked the story in the Bible when I was a little kid in Sunday school about how Jesus overturned the money changers table. And I said, if it's good enough for Jesus, maybe it's good enough for us. We don't have to block our anger. So that is really another area where I think it's important to be conscious, to allow ourselves to experience this whole range of who we are and not repress any of it, because you can channel the anger. You can channel it. So if you find yourself recognizing some of this, it means you're awake and aware. It also means you may still be struggling, like a lot of women, to access all of who you are and develop skills that will make a difference. So the question is, how come we didn't become fully self-actualized just by living our lives, learning at work, learning through meeting people and having relationships and so on. And, just to kind of summarize that again, it's because we were born in a masculine defined reality. This is not the whole story. But that's where we are in the West. And we've been here, stuck here in a way for at least 3 centuries. And it has cost us a lot as women. No one told us we could find wisdom by looking within. No one told us we had unique skills. No one taught us to honor ourselves, or really, for me, and thank God it's changing, it really is. But I would say the majority of women still struggle with all kinds of prejudices and limitations and even danger to their lives. So, I was just so fascinated when I learned that Abraham Maslow, who created the concept of self-actualization, that he did that on the basis of meeting the Blackfoot Nation and learning they see their children as born self-actualized, and that their responsibility is to help those children grow up and become these fully realized women they were born to be, that the tribe knows they were born to be from day one. And then they can give those gifts back to the tribe for the benefit of the tribe. Imagine if we were raised that way instead of the way many children, not just in the West, but around the world, are raised with punishment. You know, somehow we're supposed to be shaped into whatever our parents thought, whatever society thought. So that's a big price that we pay. And, you know, in order to succeed, and we were sure good at this in the 1970s, we were taught we have to function like men. I got socialized by men, as I mentioned last time. And it was because my sister was closer to, my younger sister was closer to my mother into her world. So I'd be out riding a horse and my sister would be in the house knitting. So we were very different. And my sister is very talented in that realm. She's very creative with her hands, whereas I was just trying to go out as an adventurous. I was just, you know, I was always getting home late because I'd take a different path and ride farther away from the corral than I was supposed to. So I got home late, so I got grounded, and on it went. Another thing I wanted to say, besides the fact that, you know, we get socialized to bring out our masculine, is actually physiologically our brains are different. We have a thicker corpus callosum than men do. That means the left and right side of our brain is connected more than it is in men. I love this story. This was told by Mary Morrissey's son. And he said, you know, when I'm listening to a woman talk, and I'm in my rational room here, and she's talking rationally and explaining the steps and, you know, making sense. And then she starts to go into this other way of thinking. It's kind of associative. She links things, and I'm like, I have no idea what she's talking about. I have to run out of my analytical room, run down the hall into my other room where I can access my right brain. Then I can understand her. So, in other words, he really experienced his right and left brain as not connected. And women, meanwhile, can do this. We can go back and forth. It's very interesting when you realize that you can think associatively, creatively, and then you can switch over and make a logical list of what you were just meaning from a more spatial, artistic way of talking about it. Did anyone teach us this when we were little girls or growing up? No. Well, actually, it's a fairly recent stuff. I think it's 30 or 40 years old research of that long ago. So, you know, left brain emphasis for women also throws us out of balance with our natural body rhythms because we're always striving to keep up, and we burn through our adrenal glands. We can cause the release of excess cortisol, which can lead to weight gain. Men can buzz right on 4 hours of sleep, and because they can run on testosterone. So in our first workshop, that's what we did. We set that magnetic intention, how to be open and receptive to what is really co-creativity with this larger reality of the universe, this what some people can call God or Christ consciousness, goddess, you know, whatever term really matches how you think about it. And this is when we set a magnetic intention and start to tap into this is totally different from setting a goal and then using willpower to try to achieve the goal. Because first of all, the goal is probably more surface versus the intention that starts to tap you into that truth. That intention is a function of quantum reality, and it does impact our reality. We are those nodes. I love that term that people uses. Nodes of consciousness that is between unmanifest energy and the manifestation of the 3D world. And it's really important to keep our relational field healthy, clear. That's why that exercise we did last time is a beginning step. And sort of cleaning house up there, just organizing it a little bit, learning a little bit about what's going on, learning the names of our subpersonalities and just listening to what they intend for us. We can learn quite a bit. So let's see. Oh yeah, this is as far as trying to how we really need mentors. We really need I don't know why my computer's sending me this message. Free up storage space. Okay, how about later? Okay, bye. Um, we need mentors. We need people who can help us take the next steps, who can introduce us to people we wouldn't have otherwise have known, who can help us realize our potential, our feminine power. I remember my grandfather taught me the basics of how to ride a horse, but I was very aware there was a whole lot more. I would subscribe to a magazine called Western Horseman, still around. They do a lot of stories about cowgirls in the West, and actually, I think in Canada. I don't know if they're international, but the point is, I was aware I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I can remember sitting on my horse and thinking, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend I'm the riding instructor and the horse trainer, and then I will instruct myself, and I would just hit this big plank. It was so frustrating. And my horse was like, what are you doing up there, Melanie? What are we doing? And I'd just be sitting on her in a field where I had planned to do something, and I didn't know what it was. So it's really important. We don't know what we don't know. And that's why establishing relationships, with other people as part of our growth process is so important. And I'll say a little bit more about it. So yeah, I mentioned already, I was a very playful, expressive child at 3, but by 6, because of my mom's insistence that I be quiet, because it was upsetting to her, I became a very shy little girl. If you look at pictures of me when I was 6 and 7, I'm sitting there like that. I'm really not that happy. And that was my survival personality. And the weird thing is, it took me years to realize I was still living that out. I would go into groups of people, and I was always the deferential, polite, modest one, who made sure everybody was, being heard. Was I being heard? No. But in public, I could be heard, where I was given a platform. So as a teacher, I could be heard, and I did public speaking. But in terms of my total presence, it wasn't there. I was still unconsciously living out part of my survival personality. So what are the costs of having that kind of inner criticism? The first one is shame. We have what we think are our limitations, or we're talking to ourselves in a negative way, and we don't want anybody to know that. Who are we going to talk to about that? We're supposed to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Well, that would be nice if they gave us the boots. Cinderella didn't get to the ball all by herself. She had a fairy godmother who gave her a dress and a carriage with horses. We need other people. We need to learn and have what we don't know and don't yet have. And so what also happens is that we experience a lot of isolation. This culture says, do it on your own, learn it on your own. You're on your own. And women have done magnificently at being single parents, for an example. I was a single parent. A lot of us have been single parents. We have taught ourselves, we have learned how to function, how to pay the bills and raise the kids and do all of that. Doesn't mean that we are fully impactful and fully living from our conscious feminine power. We were surviving. That's very different, but we did it. We were very good at it. But that isolation can lock a woman into feeling there's nobody there for her. She doesn't know how to reach out. She doesn't know where to reach out. And the isolation is really, really painful, and this is not just about reaching out to your friends, but reaching out to what you need now to make your life function fully. And the third key area for women is lack. It's lacking those connections. It's lacking a sense that there is a greater power with which we can become a co-creator. Does a surgeon learn how to do surgery by herself? No. So we need mentors, we need education in the area of our specific focus and magnetic intention. And the interesting thing is, let's say it's relationship for you. You really would love to make your relationship with your partner, your husband, whoever, which has gone kind of flat, or you're both so busy in the practical world that you've sort of, your friends there, but the intimacy is gone, the mutual support is gone. If that's an area where you want to grow this year, then I would say focus there. Because what happens is once you start to actualize one area, it's like a cascade. Everything else starts to move as well. It's really amazing. A lot of women have now experienced this. It's like, wow, I wasn't even focused there, but this is working out better. This is feeling more like me. I feel more empowered. And I mean, you may end up asking, going for a promotion at work, changing jobs, you might start a business. So all of these things, once that process starts, it starts to move altogether. So in our first two workshops, we addressed how to set that intention. We addressed some of those inner voices to help us, be more at peace, be more focused, and more effective in our everyday life. So there are three areas of relationship that matter in self-actualizing. The first one is our relationship to ourselves. When you start to realize that these voices that have been so critical aren't you, they're things you learned. They are the ways you reacted to being told by your family and society who you could be. And when you start to shift that, you start to step into a new self-concept. It's very interesting. And this actually is the key shift for you to make. And this would never happen in a situation where you're just setting a goal for a particular project. When you go deeper and you set that intention, you activate something new and you begin to shift. And if you get support for facing into the unpleasant and uncomfortable process of dealing with the deeper criticisms, you start to see yourself in a different way. And that's a really important shift to be able to make. So I mentioned before, I just am wanting to mention it again, because it was hard growing up with my mother. It wasn't really her fault. These wounds get passed down generation to generation. But thank God I had my father's grandmother next door, who, as she said to me, I love you to bits. And she said, you're the daughter I never got to have. And she was wonderful to me. It gave me perspective. It gave me another place to stand so I could know that my mom's efforts to control and shape me weren't the only story in town. And that really mattered for me. So at least I had that. But in terms of fully developing, it was a hit and miss process. I took classes, sometimes we can learn something at work, but it's not a coherent path. So once you are really held in a chrysalis where you're safe, we're exploring those really painful places, is possible because you're really going somewhere with this. This is just not being in therapy where you are talking about all the suffering, the pain, the past. No, we're only doing this because we have the larger vision. That's one reason I love coaching, is you can work, the vision right at the outset because you've set it. You've set that intention. So then, it's a little bit easier to do some of the messier, unpleasant work because that when you get through that, something different is going to happen. You are starting to turn from the moth into the butterfly. But from the moth's perspective, it's dreadful. It's horrifying. I'm dying, So, having someone to hold you in that space is really helpful. It's interesting. There's a coach who figured out there are about 21 ways that we talk to ourselves that create these limitations. And I thought I would share them with you and see if any of this, resonates. There are three big ones. One of them is I'm invisible. One of them is I'm not enough. And the third is I'm alone. And then in the area of yearning for love, wanting to be healthy, wanting to have a life of well-being across the board, what comes up is I don't matter, or I'm not lovable, I'm not wanted, I'm a burden. And then in the area of yearning to develop your feminine power, to step into impact, what comes up is I'm actually powerless, or I'm too much. I remember now who said, I'm just too much. And the coach said to her, you're not too much, you're just right, but you're around the wrong people. Go where people can, recognize your power and really enjoy it. And so you're not too much at all. And of course, that's a condensation of a process she went through with this woman who really felt like she was much too much. Other things that come up is I'm a failure. I'm just not good enough yet. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm different, and I don't belong. And then what she discovered in the area of prosperity, purpose, and success, it can sound like this. I don't have access. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the support. I'm not important anyway. I'm actually unworthy. I'm wrong. I'm inferior. In fact, I'm bad at this anyway. So when that stuff comes up, if you recognize any of these, that could stop you if you don't have someone to support you in the process. So when we get through this stage, we go back and forth, we vacillate, we go forward, we go back, but the coach is always there saying, and this is very interesting, just to give you an example, is let's say you're thinking you're just not ready. I'm not ready to do that. I'm just not. I'm not skilled enough, and so on. And the coach says back to you, well, what if I said that what's really true about you is you're a very powerful woman. You're smart and you're capable. How does that feel to you? How does that feel? What happens inside when I say that about you? That can awaken something that could be scary, and it could also be positive. And the coach says, are you willing to try that on for size? Try it on for size. Let's see if all this negative stuff you're saying is really true. So that's what the coach is doing. You need that mirroring, you need that chrysalis being held for you, and then you experience breakthroughs. Aha, that's what I was saying, doing, and so on. But insight isn't enough, and a lot of coaching stops at the point of insight, stops at the point of breakthrough, because it's really amazing to watch someone make a breakthrough. I remember watching a woman being coached around her business and what she wanted, and she kept saying, I can't do that. It's just, I am not ready. I can't take on that many more clients. So the coach said, yeah, you're ready. Just like that. He just, well, it's not quite my style, but she went, oh. And he said, do you see my point? She's like, yeah. He said, describe to me this different reality. And so she started talking about, well, I would set my office up here instead of where it is now. And I would get someone to help me with the administration. And she just, boom, he kind of blew away her limiting concept. It's not quite the way I like to work, but it makes sense. It worked for him. It worked for her. So the aha is important, but what's also important is the next step. You can learn how you are at this point and what's limiting you. Just like you can learn, when let's say you want to learn to fly a plane. So you take a class and you learn the instrument panel and you learn what the aileron and the tabs are for. You learn how it feels to do a left and right bank because you're using turn because you're on the simulator. Ta-da, breakthrough. I really understand it. Do you know how to fly the plane? No, you don't. You've reached breakthrough and you get it. The reason I'm talking about this is I actually started taking a couple of lessons. I was the flight coordinator for Angel Flight a long time ago. In fact, they're still around and bigger than ever. Angel Flight it was founded in Los Angeles. I worked at the Santa Monica Airport and I coordinated all the flights, which are offered by private pilots with their own planes, flying patients to treatment who couldn't otherwise get there. Sometimes it would be someone out in a farming town, like a farm worker who needs their child has some kind of serious illness. So we would fly them to UCLA, to LA. Sometimes it would be the wife of someone getting treatment for cancer at San Francisco, medical center in San Francisco. We would fly the wife up to be with her husband. Angel Flight now is, I think, in several Western states. So if you ever know someone who is compromised because of an immune system, because of the treatment of chemotherapy, or we flew a lot of children who suffered from severe burns that happened at a migrant labor camp in the Central Valley of California. So we flew those kids back and forth. You can imagine those kids were having a great time. So that's my little speech about Angel Flight. So once we've learned some of this stuff, we're really ready to step on our unique growth pathway. And that's where the rubber meets the road, because that's where you start to take baby steps for starters, but you start to try out new ways of being in the world. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to start some sort of project in your community. Maybe you want to ask for the promotion you've been anxious about and not asking for in the past. So the growth pathway is the most important part in the long run. That's where you start moving forward and actualizing who you now are becoming. And so when you step foot on that path, you also start noticing synchronicities. It's very interesting. It's like the universe is waving at you and saying, hi, we see what you're doing and we have your back. So yeah, you are starting to align with who you were born to be, and then you got driven off course and you lived out of your survival personality, and now you're coming back around and you're aligning. That's a very important process to know you are in. And again, having someone there helping you, mirroring back to you, because most of the people you currently know they're not going to get the picture of what self-actualization really is. They're not, and they maybe don't have time to mirror back to you the way someone can who has had some training and says, yeah, I hear the limitations. I hear what you're suffering with. And over here, I just saw you do this really cool thing. You've got some skill. Do you know that about yourself? We're often blind to our own talents when they fall outside the range of what we've been doing for years. So again, that's really helpful. And no, it's not woo-woo stuff. It's a really interesting process to, once you're at that point and you are functioning from a new and different self-concept, and you're stepping on your unique growth pathway. And again, you can't do all this stuff by yourself. We can't become ourselves by ourselves just because of how important that mirroring and support is. We can't see our growing edges. We experience our limitations, but they can block us from seeing what somebody else can see. Someone else is really brilliant at that. I am. That would happen to me sometimes. I worked because I was originally a high school teacher, and I worked also as a counselor. And I worked, the dean of students would send me all the kids that were about to be expelled for the 90 billionth time. Wasn't there? It wasn't, but he could not, there were no other ways to deal with them. Teachers don't have time. I know the side of being a teacher too. You don't have time for all, really supporting kids. So there I was. This was actually part of my graduate school work. And I would see these kids for an hour a week, or maybe sometimes they come in twice a week. I mean, this blew my mind. It was a wonderful experience. I've never forgotten it. At the end of, I think I was there for a little less than 9 months of the school year. At the end, the dean of students came to me and says, I want to give a lunch for you. I'm like, oh, okay. He stands up at the lunch and he says, Melanie is a miracle worker. I'm like, oh my God. And everybody's going, yay. Here's what it is. I was actually listening to these kids and mirroring back to them what nobody else was showing them, which is they were becoming adults. They were dealing with grown-up questions. They were terrified. Their parents were being stupid. And so, I mean, honest to God, I had this is a different situation. I had a client who was drug addicted and she sold drugs. She couldn't see it. Nobody else could see it. She said, come meet my parents. I'm like, okay, Diana, I'll come. So I went over to the house. Here were these parents deliberately undermining her and making her feel like she wasn't competent and capable. So she was medicating with drugs. And because she couldn't hold a job, she was selling drugs. So she kept cycling into jail. And they're like, see what we mean about you? You're not going to make it in life. You need to stay home with mom and dad. She was like in her early 30s. They were treating her like she was 15 years old. So, I could mirror to her and say, Diana, just the fact that you can see this is a really important first step, and she's like, it is. So that kind of mirroring back that we don't get, I mean, our partners in life, our friends, whatever, it's not real often that we get that. We do sometimes, but that mirroring is really important. So the three key relationships that matter are, first of all, that relationship to yourself. And then the second one is your relationship to the greater creative force of the universe, whether you want to say God or want to say Christ consciousness or Allah, or you want to say Brahma, or however it makes sense to you. So it's an important relationship to nurture in whatever way makes sense to you. And the third important relationship is to other women who are self-actualizing. They're going to understand what you're up to, what you're struggling with, what your vision is, and so on. And the other piece of that is women or people in general who can
from messages +61 468 323 385.
Hello, I hear somebody talking. Giving out.
Sorry, that was my computer.
Okay, no problem. All right, so the other piece of that is being introduced, being shown networks, being introduced to people who actually have the ability to pull you into a world that you never knew existed because of the isolation we grew up with. Believe me, isolation will always be something I talk about because I grew up in that very small farming town. And I knew how to talk to horses better than people. It wasn't my fault. It was just a reality. So when I moved to Los Angeles, oh my God, that was my idea of jumping off a cliff. I had no idea. I didn't understand anything. I think I might have mentioned that before. But part of this process of being on your growth pathway is starting to feel confident about asking for support. People love it. People love being able to help other women get a leg up, meet new people, have an opportunity you wouldn't have had if you were just, taking classes online, reading books, or trying to learn what you could, in your immediate circle. So what I'm talking about is that I want to offer the opportunity, if you would like to, really get past the inner critic, if you would like to, develop that presence, that confidence, if you would just like to explore what you want in your life at this point, what you really yearn for in your life at this point, and feel confident. And if you would like, one of the things that happens in terms of aligning and respecting your body, we talked about the body regulator, is that it can help improve your health. There's a kind of energetic alignment that can happen. I'm not promising anything in particular, but I am saying women have experienced an increase in health and energy just by aligning with who you were born to be. A lot of us got into demands on our lives when we were very young, and we've learned how to respond and be practical and do what needs to be done. But what about us? What about our own selves? So, or if you want to start a job, I don't know if this is of interest to any of you in particular, but there are women who have decided to start a business online, and I'll give you an example. It's a woman who suddenly, after 25 years of working in this corporation, someone from HR came by her desk one day and said, "You need to turn in your badge. We're letting you go." She had been there. Can you imagine? She was just turning 60. And here she was. She thought she was going to get the golden watch in 5 years. No, they let her go instead. She was devastated. Her husband said to her, "Honey, what about all that art stuff in the basement, that you haven't had time to get to? What's that about? What if you kind of brought that back into your life?" So she got all that stuff out, and she remembered, I forget what it's called. It's some kind of design process. You can create designs and duplicate them. You can use them on drapery, books, clothing, blankets, bedspreads, etc. Not blankets, but bedspreads. And she got this idea: what if I see if there's women out there in the world who want to do this art project and sell their work? So she started out with a very small group of women. And within a year and a half, she was making over $100,000 a year. The power of just having your little thing and being able to grow it online. She had women who belonged to her monthly membership group, and she was off and running. I think it took her about 18 months to get it really, really running. Now it's gone into the multiple six-figure range. Needless to say, she's like, wow, she is just glowing and having the time of her life. Who would have dreamed that she could transform that self-doubt, that devastating loss, into what she transformed it into? So I wanted to invite you, if you'd really like to own your own power, resuscitate, revive, get back the things that were, repressed when you were a child. I wanted to offer a chance for you to have free consultation with me, and there's no obligation. If you decide you want to work with me, that would be wonderful. I'd love to have you. But I want to show you, I want to find out your stories and see, whether this is a fit, between you and me. And so I'm going to make my calendar available starting on Monday. I'm going to actually, let me put a link. Let's see, I should have probably copied it before this, but I might disappear for a minute here while I go find the link that I want to put in the chat. Hello, link, where are you? Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, and now I'm coming back here, and I'm going to put this into the chat and make sure it goes out to everybody. Meeting group chat, that's it. That's everybody. Okay. And then I'm going to send that, so it should show up. Can you see that? It's a link to my calendar. And I encourage you to take advantage of it, because even if you decide not to sign up to join me, you will get a new level. I haven't been able to talk to everybody individually, you will get a much stronger, much greater clarity, I would say, and a stronger sense of where your brilliance lies at this point in your life and what you might be able to self-actualize in any one of those areas that we've talked about. So do sign up. That you can do that starting Monday. And it'll be an hour. Sometimes I go longer than an hour. It just depends. So that's my offer to you. And this has been a lot of fun. I wanted to also ask you if any of you have questions or comments. I think you can just, I don't think you're on mute. Or if you are on mute and you want to talk, just undo your microphone. Is there anybody that has a comment or a question? Okay. All right. Did I hear somebody?
Hey, it's me,
Hey.
Dana.
Hi.
I just put my video back on. I had to turn it off because my reception's not good and it closed me out a little while ago and I had to reopen. I was in it. I was present for the whole first night about magnetic intentions, but I did not write notes. And I don't remember, what do you do that's like, what do you feel is your unique approach to setting an intention, to discovering what a deep magnetic intention might be in ourselves?
Well, the biggest difference is the difference between setting a goal for this year
Oh yeah.
and setting a magnetic intention. Intention actually makes a difference. It's the difference of the state of consciousness that you drop into in order to set that intention. Intention,
True.
focused intention actually affects reality. And I had shared with you the research done at Princeton for 28 years in the engineering lab. And it was headed up by someone named Robert John, Jahn. And at the end of that, he said, we have proved beyond statistical doubt that intention affects reality. We are not taught, and of course, even today, they're still not teaching quantum physics in most high schools. They're still teaching Newtonian physics, but there's that whole other reality before it comes into this manifest reality. It's our creativity that's made everything that we see. I mean, we didn't make the trees, but the buildings, the cars, the technology, all of that has, come out of a focus on using the rational mind. What we're saying is part of our feminine ability is, I think women can drop more easily into that creative space. We're just more fluid. We're just more fluid. And I think once you learn to trust it, you can do some really interesting things because, well, like I mentioned, the paper I wrote that was so embarrassing. I downloaded the paper. I didn't write that paper. They probably thought it was, but see, it's there waiting for you when you step into receptivity and kind of a playful attitude, how will it turn out? Who could set a goal for what your purpose in life will turn out to look like? There's no steps we can know today because we can't see it yet. We're moving. We're just listening. We're moving through that process. We're taking notes. We're getting support for that. So that's why magnetic intention is what it is. It's unique, and it's powerful. And if our self-doubts come up, then we want to be aware, oh, you know what, I'm not feeling confident that I'm ever going to get there. So we want to drop back into just, okay, all right, I'm ready. And I can tell you, as far as synchronicities, I don't know if you've experienced many synchronicities in your life. I have been blown away. Maybe you have too. Have you felt synchronicities? Because it's like the universe is going, hi. I mean, it's crazy. I'll be thinking of someone who lives in another state and I'm out driving and I'll see 5 license plates from that state and I've never seen them before. And they actually, I would have known if they were there because this is a friend of mine. But suddenly, because I was thinking, how is she and what's going on? all these license plates are there. One time this was really weird. I was very strapped for cash, and I was driving. I was just in LA. I was coming down from Topanga Canyon. And all of a sudden this voice said, pull over. There's $5 here. I pull over and there's a $5 bill lying in the dirt beside the road. Now, how does that happen? How does that happen?
That's a wild one.
That one's
That's a
wild.
truly
That's one
wild
of the
one.
wildest ones I ever had.
That's a wild one.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Are you familiar with Marcy Shimoff and her Year of Miracles
I have
program?
I'm familiar with her, but I'm not
Okay.
familiar with her Year of Miracles.
Okay.
Have you taken that
I've done hers. I just kind of did it last year.
Uh-huh.
But her whole focus is on intentions, and it's on the intentions from within. It's like it's not like I have an intention to lose weight. I have an intention to be radiantly healthy and vibrantly happy in my health. Or she always has these emotions that go with it. So I'm used to the idea of intentions versus goals. But I had a hard, it's challenging for me to come up with intentions.
Okay.
And I didn't like all the flowery, happy language either. I'm a very positive person. I like to have fun and laugh, and I love synchronicities and magic, and I just love all that. I'm very creative. And yet when it came to intention setting for the whole year, I could come up with these great sounding intentions. And then I thought, that doesn't sound like me. It sounds dumb.
Oh, interesting.
But I had a whole, I created a theme for myself of basking in joy. And that was a nice one. I have one more question for you. Being in the Bay Area in the 70s, were you around the EST training much? Werner Erhard and the EST training?
I was aware of it. I was never attracted to it. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't my thing. I was, let's see, where was I? I actually knew people at Esalen because I lived in Santa Cruz, and I got into the realm of people who were combination therapists or psychiatrists and spiritual teachers. And some of this happened at UC Santa Cruz when I was studying psychology there. So the EST never, I don't think it made it to Santa Cruz, or if it did, I wasn't paying attention. And then when I got to the Bay Area, a friend tried to recruit me, and he said, just believe it. And I'm like, I don't feel like that's where I resonate now, because I'd met these other really interesting teachers, and so no, EST. I was wondering, when you were talking about setting an intention, did you actually set something really specific for the year, for example, or for the next few months?
Well, sometimes I tried to set specific ones, little ones for our 2 weekly ones. Like I intended to get up every morning at daylight when I first saw daylight. Or when my cat woke me up. That was an intention. That was a very specific intention. And I just didn't, I didn't get up every morning at daylight. It didn't, it wasn't, I didn't have the stakes weren't high enough, I don't think, for myself to get up every morning. And when it was daylight, I knew I would feel better, and I don't have to. But I also had some general ones, like I'm in a radiant, healthy body, or I'm loving my radiant vitality.
Maybe you needed to set something more specific and bigger. It sounds like maybe you weren't tapping into.
Well, I also had big one.
You did?
Well, I don't know. Like, I had some bigger ones. I just took them all down because they were like from last year. But I had some like I communicate freely from my soul with everybody I meet, or I communicate freely as me and from love with people I talk to. I got some really wild ones like that. Then I got I cannot do intentions that are like goals. I
Well,
can't do intentions that are like subversive or sub-level goals. And
what
I
I'm
did not
hearing,
like goals.
yeah, that makes sense. What I'm hearing also is it sounds like some of this, it sounds more like affirmations than
Yeah,
than a deep intention. And that's why,
yeah, because I could not pull it down. I could not pull it out of the intention level.
yeah, I think
I
you were
would
taking it
feel,
from,
I could feel an intention, but as soon as I put an intention into words, it's like it devalued it or something, turned it into an affirmation. Yeah.
yeah, that's what
Plus,
it sounds like you
plus,
were doing.
plus it's hard for, put this one with it too, as you think of this. Plus it's hard for me to imagine. I can imagine a future self of me,
yeah,
and my imagination is great, and I can imagine things I love to do. And at the same time, it's so different from how I actually am right now that it just
you
sounds
know,
like affirmations, feels like just affirmations to myself, not really visualizing. I can go through all the visualize and smell how it smells and know what, you know, your why of why you're doing all of that and what it's like. But as soon as I put all that into it, it's like, it still feels like it's out there as
yeah,
not really a me.
yeah, I'm getting, I'm, yeah,
And
I'm,
I like to live more in the moment
well, there's nothing wrong
the,
with that.
with the general direction. I mean, I do have goals and I do have plans and ideas and hopes and dreams, and I do have all that.
Well,
But
yeah, I was going to say, as far as imagination, it's setting an intention isn't imagination. Imagination is more coming from your mind. Intention is coming really from your soul. It's coming
yeah,
from the gifts you were born with. And because we got cut off from some of our gifts, my gifts were acting, writing, and dance. Guess what happened? I was told it was selfish of me to want to do that. And the only part of my talent that survived was writing. And then through teaching, in public speaking, I could do some of the quote acting. I had the lead in the high school plays and all that, but I never had,
yeah,
no one mentored me in access, allowed me access. What I'm hearing is that, and here's the thing, and this is why we do the work with getting through the survival and past the survival personality. We can't see, we don't know what happened back then because it happened before we had memory. And I'm just curious if for you, I don't know what your childhood was like, but you know, some of those memories are buried in your body, and there are people who have gone, oh my God, I see the baby and she's crying and nobody is there. And this woman was just, she had this, I mentioned her before, she had suffered a lifetime of anxiety, and she thought everybody struggled with anxiety every single day of their lives. This was a buried memory at the first chakra level. And the chakras are just like a map to the territory. That's, you know, you can use it or not use it, but in the first year of life. That's why it's so important to go through some kind of process where someone helps you to become conscious. Once you become conscious of how you've been blocking yourself because you didn't know it, then it becomes easier to start accessing that call of your soul. It's hard.
yeah,
It's hard. And we women really, we didn't get mentored. The world still doesn't really understand what we have to give because we haven't known ourselves. It's kind of a weird
yeah.
conundrum, but it's true. It's
And
really,
I was a teacher, a classroom teacher for 26 years.
oh,
I did
okay.
fifth grade and eighth grade science.
Uh-huh.
And I know what you mean about, I was nicknamed the school's third psychologist or counselor. I
Mhm.
was nicknamed because I could read children. I could just pause with them and just have a little exchange, and they'd say like, wow, how'd you know about them? That would be, that's one, blah, 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 blah. I would just
Right.
bring out things in
Yeah.
them and teach. Yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
I
really
did take
great.
the S training. I
Yeah,
I
you
did do
did.
the S
And was
training
you liked
when
it?
I was a
Like
teen, and it absolutely was the most powerful, incredible, wonderful thing I could ever have gone through. It blew all the skeletons out of my closet in a safe environment, and
Uh-huh.
it was just powerful. I went from being shy and quiet and all that to just all of a sudden, oh, I can just be free. I can just be me. I can just do this and that. But it's hard to maintain that because it does require maintenance.
Mhm.
And when I left and went to college, I wasn't around people who had any of that outlook on life,
Didn't understand that. Yeah.
didn't understand it.
Mhm.
And then when I went to Alaska and then I married a man who had a more dominant personality than me,
Mhm.
and I knew it, but I didn't know how to prevent myself from just going back to a lot of, I went over the decades, I just went
Right.
more and more back into my shell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
lately I've been breaking out and I've had some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful like group coaching
Mhm.
kinds of opportunities over the last few years and things like that. So I've come a whole long way. But it's still been a process.
Yeah, it is a
I'm
process.
a lot
Well, I
I'm a lot
invite
way
you to,
now
yeah, I
from how
invite
I
you.
was 4 months ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've,
I
I've,
invite you to
I've,
get on a call with me so that we can explore it and see, if there's a something or a way that you could take it to the next step beyond where, like right now, what I'm kind of hearing is some of the frustration you have around what it meant in that particular class with Marcy to set an intention, and it kept sounding to you or coming out in the realm more of an affirmation. And
Mhm.
that you're wanting somehow to go, that there was something about that that didn't gel, because like you said, I'm a very practical person. Or maybe you didn't use that word, but that's what I'm picking up. You're very competent. And you're a little frustrated around creativity, maybe accessing
Mhm.
this realm, uh, because it's new. We are actually on the cusp. I don't know how familiar, I could go on this forever because I want to let other people speak as well. If
So,
any,
yeah, if anyone wants to speak, they should speak up. Yeah.
Hearing is good.
yeah, Jane Mary is talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Rupert
I'm
Sheldrake, the morphic field we're all creating, it's new. That was, what I wanted to mention is what he explains about our reality. We are actually creating a new field. So we're all learning and creating at the same time. And we're going to shift, I hope, if the universe if our planet is around. I hate these wars that are happening. But we're going to shift the reality to one that is able to, understand functioning in the quantum realm as well, functioning creatively. Jane Mary, you wanted to say.
Oh, I'm just thinking when I was listening to Dana, one thing that I've found over the years, I think many years ago, I did a very short course about self-defeating behavior, and it was about negative self-talk. And then through my work, I've attended different conferences and things, and I learned about negative self-talk. And this lady got us to put an elastic band around our wrist.
Oh,
And
I
she said,
remember. Yeah, I did.
yeah, and she said to you, every time you say something unkind to yourself, flick yourself with the elastic band, because no one else can hear your self-talk except you. Tell you what, I soon learned to be compassionate. But the thing is, I wanted to say is compassion. I've learned that I've got to be compassionate to myself and forgiving. But look, when quite a few years ago, it might have been 30 years ago, I was a single parent bringing up 2 children, paying off a house. All right.
Right.
And I got this one morning, I woke up early, and I went outside and something said, and a friend had been telling me about the Northern Territory. It's quite exciting. It's like, the outback of Australia. And I just felt I had to take my children out back. And I knew I could do it. I organized the sale of my car. I bought a little 4-wheel drive on, paying it off. I didn't pay it for cash. I finished renovating my house so whoever lived in it, because it was an old cottage, could have a nice home to live in. And my children said, Mummy, why couldn't it be like this when we were living here? And I went, oh, it won't rent out. And then I went, oh, you poor kids, never mind. It wasn't bad, but and I got them packed up. I got a trailer. I put a bit of money aside. I did a little bit of part-time work, and we traveled 3,000 kilometers to the Northern Territory. And we set up there and stayed there for about 5 years. And I remember, you know, when you were
5 years.
talking,
Oh,
yeah, this magnetic thing. I had no trouble getting work. I had work. The children were getting older, so I could work sometimes when they came. But most of the time when they were little, they'd come to my workplace because I had a job that allowed the children there. You know, it was just brilliant. But what I found was that, you know, when you talked in the first program about that magnetic feeling, I listened to that 3 times because I want to get that joy again of trusting myself, of knowing that I can do it. You know, the universe was in alignment. People were, oh, you can't go, you'll get killed, you'll get mugged, you'll get attacked, blah, blah, blah. There were so many negatives. And I just went, no, I know what I'm doing. I knew inside. And and you know, like Dana, I don't like setting goals. I did a course with Dr. Samuelson, Professor Samuelson, and we had to do goal setting. And I went, oh, I hate setting goals because I can't do it cold turkey. Melanie, you've let me know something about myself that I have to feel it before it's a goal. I can't just go, or I got to lose weight, or I can't lose weight. I don't want to lose weight. Whatever. I've got to feel it inside. So I've got to learn get rid of the negative self-talk, which was these things you were telling us when we destroy ourselves with the guilt and all that, and being compassionate and loving myself. And if I do sometimes not get up, as you said, Dana, because sometimes I thought I've got to get up early every morning, and it lasted a bit. And then I ended up helping someone and going to bed late, you know, and I went, oh, I can't get up. So, you know, I've got to learn about myself, you know, learn about myself. I'm a rescuer. So sometimes I'm rescuing people, but I've got to remember to rescue myself first.
yeah.
So Melanie, I'll think about doing the course with you, but may I please share your videos with a couple of ladies I know that really, I've tried to help them with what I know, but it falls on deaf ears. And if I could share your videos, your YouTube videos, and then give them your calendar or your email so they can contact you if they want to do the course.
That's wonderful, of course.
Would you mind? Because I want to spread it. I tried to get one of my friends in Adelaide on, but she's, you know, oh, my husband needs me to do this. My husband needs me to do that.
Oh,
I'm going. You know,
right.
it's like,
So it takes a while to kind of shift some of that. Yeah.
I won't say too much because she might see the video. I won't say her name, but she knows who I am. And she knows that she can't seem to get out of that web, because she's committed to helping and serving others, but she's really suffering inside. So yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. No,
that's wonderful of you.
Yes,
I just thought, look, I know we've only got 5 or 6 people, but you know what, if we all share this and if we learn and we can spread the good news, because women, I've always wondered why women were oppressed and held under. And I had my own theories because we're quite intelligent and bright and creative. Men were worried, so they wanted except some men. My dad was open. He just liked, he knew I was a girl, but he liked sharing things with me, and he taught me to be a person. So I didn't, you know, and it wasn't you know, and that helped me when I was, you know, it's helped me in my life. But I have had bad periods, believe me. I won't get into it now, but I have had bad periods where I've been oppressed and I've fallen. I've actually had to go to counseling because I had an abusive companion who was emotionally abusive and controlled me. And my children said, we don't know what happened to you, Mum. You weren't yourself. So, you know, I've been through it all, but I think it's helped me to understand others.
Yeah.
And compassion for me, can be compassionate to yourself. There is a scripture in the Bible, and it says, I was just late. Sorry, I was driving and I was trying to, because I was at a church thing. But there's a scripture that says, do unto others as, no, not that one. When, you know, the greatest commandment is to love God. Yes, we understand that. And the second is like unto it, to love others as you love yourself.
Right.
And a lot of my friends say, oh, I love other people. But I say, are you loving yourself? Because love others as you love yourself. So how do you love yourself? You know, I've seen women give up their life and sacrifice themselves for others, but they're not doing that for themselves. And I heard you say today in our talk that we need to learn to refresh and regenerate ourselves. A lot of women don't. They give their all, and we've got to learn. Anyway, that's just one of the things that's important.
That's a key point, actually. I'm glad you brought that up again.
We've got to keep ourselves, give ourselves the oxygen mask on the plane first. Help others. But
well, you know, that's a question too, that back when I was a mother with children at home, and I was hearing that from, oh, what was her name? That famous Dr. Christian Northrup. She's that famous female doctor, pro women and everything. She came out a couple decades ago.
Right.
And she was talking, and she was on public television too, I think. But she was talking at that time about filling your own cup up first as a woman and making sure that you fill your cup, because you're always giving to others in your family. And I remember at that time in my life, it was really hard to view what she really intended for me to get from that, for us to get from that, of filling our own cup, because it really did feel selfish to stop and do whatever for myself. But I knew that I had a soul to maintain. I knew that the better I felt, the better I could love my children and husband and all that, and teach and all that.
Right.
But still, at that age, I received that message so much differently than I do now.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh yeah, I get what it means, and I get what's underneath it, and I get the whole context and all this, everything else about it. So when I think about younger people, younger women hearing that, or women who actually are in the child rearing stage right now, it is harder to get the whole context of all of that when you're in the middle of raising children than it is after they've gone from home. And we can realize in retrospect, oh yeah, I think it does make a difference. Well, nowadays it may not make as much of a difference because it's so much in the air around us. Fill your own cup, take care of yourself. It's in the ether all around us now. So maybe it's better for younger women now than it was
Yeah,
20 years ago before internet and all.
Yeah, you're making me think about how I want to go and find some of these women personally. I really would like to know how if it's really different, because we know that the socialization still is that women are kind, generous, loving, and caring, and all this stuff. So are they free of that enough so that they can honor themselves, so that they get that? I'm really curious. I haven't taught, I haven't been in the schools for a while. So, and I taught high school, which was really interesting, because then you're watching these children become young adults. And so you raise a good point, a question, whether or not, I mean, because when I grew up, my mother told me, don't ask it's imposing if you ask. It's imposing. And so we were supposed to be offering ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. I always felt like I was imposing. I'm not sure where I got it from, but I also felt that was like an indicator of failure, of personal self-failure, if I needed help from someone else.
Well, we're still in that culture that's masculine that says, pull yourself up, be competitive, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. We learned how to do it. I got more social. I mentioned this before, but I was socialized a lot by men because my mother wasn't there for me. My dad was the one. And that just evolved because he had a lumber yard. Everybody that worked there was a man. So, when I started helping dad in the office, I met these men and we all talked together. It was just so natural to me. So I have always, had fun knowing men, liking men, but hating I can remember stupid projections onto me about what they thought I was like. And I'd say, I think you're a bit off. But I didn't know how to bring out what was really true of me. I didn't know how to speak about who I was because of that limitation where my mom had said, I'm sorry, but it's selfish of you wanting to study dance and acting. Are you kidding? You need to go get a job. So that got crushed out of me. And that was on top of the other stuff she did when I was little, where I wasn't supposed to go anywhere. I wasn't supposed to talk back. Don't talk back.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So that's why I'm so passionate about this work. I really think I'm glad that any of you that want to share these 3 classes that we've done together, because I'm very passionate about women stepping into leadership now, stepping into doing what you still have the energy, the talent to do, and to realize that it's coming. It's like, I like how Carolyn Mace describes it. She said, it's a sacred contract you were born with. This is not some self-serving or affirmation supporting. This is deep stuff. You were born
I mentioned I was at church today, and usually church is a little bit patriarchal. I mean,
Yeah.
Usually, and
Okay.
and I'm in the one Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so it's not really patriarchal. It appears to be, but it's if people are living the laws, they will understand that a woman walks beside a man, not behind him. But somebody was saying something one day, and they were saying, "Oh no, women are even in our church, women are oppressed and women are secondhand." And I went, "Well, you believe in God, don't you?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you think God, if he thought woman was a secondhand citizen, would have given her the responsibility of creating that human life for 9 months?"
Or would she have given, if you
Or
go
she,
back?
exactly, because we don't know
Yes.
for sure. But you see what I mean? Women, whatever it is, whether it's a patriarchy or not, and I talked to a man, I don't want to say anything unkind about other beliefs, but I was talking once to, I think it was a Mason on an aeroplane many years ago when I wasn't in any particular faith precept. I was just living freely. But he was saying at that time women weren't in the organization as much. I think it was Mason, something like that, one of those anyway. And that's when I said to him, "Oh, well, because he said women weren't as superior as men in intellect and other things." And I said, "Isn't that interesting? Because every time a man like you has a child, he has it with a woman." And I said, and I was an AI technician inseminating cattle, so I was very into genetics. And I said, so half of your genetic qualities are from your mother and half of your genetic qualities are your father. And I said, strangely enough, half of my genetic qualities are from my father and half of my genetic qualities are from my mother. So how does that make me inferior? And he went, and I said, and if that's the case, every time you have a child with a woman, if you think a woman's inferior, you're breeding more inferior men, even if they're male, because they're coming from the woman. And he just didn't, he was like, "Oh, I don't know what to say." It was very interesting. Long conversation. We were flying across the Tasman. It was a 2.5-hour flight. It was quite convoluted, but I kept thinking, with my brain that my dad helped me have, which was think, be
Yeah.
practical. There's always a solution. Nothing's impossible. And we had a very interesting conversation. And I believe that now they're letting women into the order. But I'm not saying it was anything I did. But
Well,
you
it
know what
could
I'm
have
saying?
been. It could
How can we be inferior when everybody has half of the qualities from their mother and half of the qualities from their father?
Well, we couldn't be.
We're
And of
just
course,
we're different mirror, but we're still, you see what I'm saying? Your brother, if you had a brother, he would have been half and half. You're
yeah,
half and half. So
right. Yeah.
just our reproductive organs that are different, So
Yeah. And we do have different qualities. And
we
that's
do have different
we do.
qualities,
We
but
have different
we
capacities.
do.
We
Well,
I mean, women make really good managers in corporate America. Women as leaders are powerful because we listen, we give, equal space to everybody, we encourage community. It's very different. I mean, I've worked in the corporate world enough where the masculine value prevails, and I see a lot of fear. I see gossip. This is all counterproductive. This doesn't even match up with how I think being a manager should be, can be. And it's really weird when you're in an environment that's so dominantly shifted to this power, version, competition version, do as we say, hello. So that's why I care, because I think we do know a lot. We know a lot. We know how to use our rational mind. We just want to bring online that deeper vision of what our unique contribution is.
And thank you for what you're doing, because women need, I think you're using the word actualized, but I feel they need
Yeah.
to be empowered so they know who they are. I'm fortunate because some good friends helped me to get to this point I'm at, and some of them were women. When I was a single parent, I had children. I was so devoted to trying to bring them up and pay off a house and everything. And she said to me one day, "You need a break." And I went, "Oh, no, I'm fine." And I'd asked my mum to give me a break. And she went, "You had fun making them, you look after them." And I went, "It was only for a few minutes, Mum. The fun was only a few minutes. I need a break." "No, I raised my children here. Your father was always at work. You'll manage, or. And I was really at the stage where I needed a break. A good friend took my children for a weekend, and she taught me that it wasn't selfish to have a break from my kids. And I was neurotic the first day she took them. I kept looking around where they were. And by day 2, I was going, "Oh, this is great. I'm a person again. I'm myself, and I learned to have time out to be myself and remember who I am. I was a person before children. I was a person before marriage. Sorry to share,
Hello.
but I think that it's a reality, but we tend to give as women, we tend to, anyway. So I've
I know,
developed
I was-
where I am through a lot of people sharing love and knowledge with me. And like you've been doing, I really appreciate your
You
course.
are more than welcome, and I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'm going to expand this. And so anybody who wants to send out those, our classes, thank you
Yeah,
for
you
thinking
too,
of
so
that
much.
and offering that. That's absolutely great. Because this is important work. I can just really sense, that we're at a tipping point. When I think back, even to the Esalen days, that was male dominated still. It was. Fritz Perls was doing some things. I'm like, oh no. It was actually, it was predatory on some of the women there. I was shocked by what was going on there. And that probably made me very cautious about some of the group movements that were going on at the time. So yeah, I really am passionate about us finding out how to tap into what we were really born to be. That to me, and then, learning the skills, walking the growth pathway. This is something that can take time because we're networking, we're meeting new people, we're practicing our skills, but we're aiming for something important, not just for ourselves, but for the world. That's how I feel about this whole project, is that this is for the world. And
Yeah.
yeah. Does anybody else want to contribute anything? This has been wonderful.
Very.
It's been
Well,
so
I
fun.
have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The reference to the YouTube, are these 3 days on YouTube?
Mhm. So when I am
Did you-
sending out those links, like I'll send out the link to tonight's, they're going into my YouTube channel. So
Okay.
yeah, when you click it, you're gonna go right straight to, you'll see all three of them it'll be an hour or so before I get this one out, but you'll see them all. They're all there. I
Okay.
created a
I
channel.
guess I didn't realize that when I watched the replay of the first day that it was on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. All right.
Well, good. And that's
Okay.
shareable.
So that's great. And yeah, think about joining me, go to the calendar, sign up, and we can each, take this conversation further and see if you want to work with me. I would like eventually to start a group. I used to run groups, and not from this perspective. They were groups either for people who were drug addicted, or for teenagers. Those were like the two groups I worked with at that time. I would like to start doing women's groups where we each can have both individual time each month to work on our unique and, perspective and evolution. And we're surrounded by other women who understand what self-actualizing really means, what it means to step into our feminine power. So if we get enough
Well,
together, I may also do a group.
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
There are a lot of women out doing this kind of thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a way of
Of doing that?
how do we find those women? Because I know several of them have just sort of ended up in my inbox, or I've ended up from a webinar or something, a summit, like 10 people on a certain kind of summit or something. I know Wendy Collier, I was just listening to some of her stuff, and she's more into the business part of it. But she's really, really into activating your soul fuel. She calls it soul fuel.
Okay.
And she's really into women and collaborating together and all this stuff. So there are a lot of women out there, and I kind of keep thinking, well, maybe it would be nice if instead of each group being their own individual group, wouldn't it be magical if they could all be combined together?
Yeah, I never thought of that actually. So, I don't know if her
and
focus.
each one who has their own circle has their own focus. Like you have your own focus, she has her own focus, and it would be wonderful to have them all come together. But I guess a lot of them do, because like there are some, look up Wendy Collier and Soul Fuel.
Okay.
That's a thought. 'Cause
She's done what,
Yeah, because Dr. Bush has got,
That's a
he's
what?
become involved with, well, there's a guy called Dr. Zach Bush, and he's become involved with Commune One or One Commune or something. And you can get all sorts of health
Yeah.
information from that group. And if you just particularly want to learn about health, you go to Dr. Zach Bush, or if you want to learn yoga, you go to Skylar or something, you know. But it's that would be good for women if there was such a possibly, I don't know if it would work, but you know, a holistic thing where women can get all sorts of help, where, you know, Melanie would specialize in what she does and someone would maybe specialize in something else. And then it would be on one website or something. I'm not saying that
that's a good point.
yeah.
You're talking
That's a good
about
point. I know
Dr.
what you- I know what
Zach
you-
Bush? Zach Bush?
Yes, so
Yeah.
Zach Bush is
Yeah, I
he's
know who- yeah.
involved. I
Yeah.
think it's called Commune One or
I'm
One
so-
Commune. I never get it right. I tried
Yeah,
to tell
he-
somebody
Yeah,
once.
my
and
son
said-
did.
and
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and as soon as I mentioned the word commune, this woman shut off. She went, "Oh, I don't want to have anything to do with hippies." I went, "Oh no, they're not hippies." I said, you know, it's not for your
No, he's
head.
a doctor. He's a doctor. He's
like
very much
this.
into, he has one called The Farmer's Footprint, which I love.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in the farmer's footprint too.
Oh,
'cause I'm
you
off the
are?
land. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, don't worry in
Yeah.
Australia, but because I do believe there's healing in the land, and you know, I've clint over the grounding, walking barefoot on soil or sand or grass. I had a group of 5 little children under 5 today, and they'd been having food coloring and all sorts of crazy sugar foods before they came to my little nursery group. And it was really hard keeping them from, they were literally bouncing off the wall. So I said, "All right, everybody, line up." And we had trouble lining them up. And then I said, "Now take your shoes off. We're going outside on the grass." We walked around for 10 minutes, came inside, they sat quietly and played. So they diffused
That was
that.
very clever of you.
That's beautiful.
And I went, because I'm 71,
That's
you know, it's
brilliant.
hard running after these little nippers, you know. It's like,
Wait, also, you're turning
That's
you're
brilliant.
turning the focus to something that's another of my passions, and that's healing the soil. So I don't know if you know Walter Yenna. He is training ranchers and farmers in Australia, and his last name is Jehne. Go on to YouTube. You will learn so much.
all right, I will. Thank you. Thank you.
Getting
Because
off fossil fuels is not going to do it.
no,
It
because
does not make any difference. What's heating us up is the fact that the bare soil is so hot now because we've desertified it for decades and centuries, actually, that the natural cooling system of the earth isn't working right.
makes sense.
What's happening is removal of forests and plants and poisoning the soil with chemicals like pesticides and herbicides and so on. We've got dead soil. So we have unhealthy food, but then we've also got soil that cannot participate in the cycling of moisture. Guess what takes the heat off the earth? Transpiration. When a plant releases moisture, how do they turn the water into vapor?
with the heat.
Hot soil. They take it off the soil and it goes up into the atmosphere and is dissipated into space. That's how the earth knows how to cool herself. And we've messed it up by taking down forests, by doing the wrong kind of agriculture. And Walter will show you how the hydrological cycle really works. And you can add that to your podium
Repertoire.
yeah, your repertoire of
I'm
things.
trying to become a whole person, you know,
Yes,
because
we
but
need
this is
that
interesting.
too.
You know, we're women, and the earth, even by men, has been called Mother Earth, and that's because it's nurturing, and we need. She has been abused and mistreated, and I feel it's important for us to try and heal the planet. I really do.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
what's his name? That young fellow wants to fly to the moon, whatever, Mars or whatever it is. You know, the what's his name? The electrical car guy.
Elon Musk.
oh,
Elon Musk, you know, and I
Elon
don't, you know, and I admire his energy. If anything, you know, he just won't give up on a project. But you know, what's wrong with fixing up this planet? You know, let's fix it.
I think he's a little bit
he's
wacky.
he's okay. He's got to do something. He doesn't take drugs, so he just goes crazy.
Yeah,
But you know, his whole focus on electric vehicles and solar panels and all that has done huge benefit to this planet just by taking the emphasis off of the fossil fuels for vehicles and just bringing the whole idea of solar and electric vehicles to the world. I mean, so
Mhm.
he's done hugely with that.
Yeah, I just wish he would
He's done
focus
hugely
like,
for our planet with that.
yeah, that, you're right. I just wish he would give up on his Mars thing and just realize that would never, it's just not gonna
Let's
happen.
fix what
Yeah,
we've got. Yeah,
let's
fix what we've
fix,
got.
yeah, let's love our Earth and
Well,
learn.
now I have a question. I
Okay,
have a question.
yes.
Are we here to nurture the dreams in each other, or are we here to shut out the dreams that we disagree with? I think we're here to nurture the dreams in each other, even his dreams.
Okay, well, you can do that, but I am not interested
Yeah, you've got to
in
be
the
a bit
Mars
radical.
project.
I'm
I
not
will
going to
not,
Mars.
I will not, I can,
See-
no.
See,
I'm not-
that's different. That's different if we say, I'm not interested in that topic or that project, than saying, why doesn't he do something different instead of that?
Well, I
And
know
that's what
that's true.
people will do to us. People will do to us, say, why are you going to do that? That's not very interesting. This is and so here we are kind of being how we don't
Being
want to
like
be.
that, being like, yeah, you're right, you're right.
Trying to rain on someone else's parade.
Yeah,
Really not just rain RAIN, but some REIN, rain some power over them.
REIGN.
Yeah,
so,
REIGN.
yeah, what was I just gonna say? And then it went right out. Anyway, yeah, I like to speak to what I feel positively about. That's why I speak to healing the soil, because I know that we can do it. Walter has said if we just, it's such a small percentage of the soil overall that if we just heal that much of the soil, the planet will start naturally cooling itself. It's that radiant heat, because so much vapor, water vapor. He said, here's what the primary greenhouse gas is not CO2. CO2 is 4%. The primary greenhouse gas is water vapor. 90 some percent is water vapor. And what that is, it's the water that used to be stored in the soil when the soil was healthy. And of course, I feel this because I grew up in the agricultural part of California. And so now the soil's not working anymore. We can force it with chemicals, but it's not naturally functioning. So it's lost its ability to, cycle the moisture. The moisture is now stuck up in the sky. He said one of the reasons we have these downbursts, there is so much dust in the atmosphere because of this destroyed soil. The dust particles are too small for moisture to coalesce into raindrops. So it doesn't happen till we have this, I don't know how we reach this tipping point where now it can coalesce, but then it comes down as a horrific storm, a horrific, these floods that we're seeing. This is all aspects of the disruption of the natural cycle that used to exist.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that kind of blew my mind. I realized he also said, here's another thing. People talk about dropping back to 350, that organization, 350 started by Bill McKibben. So we're not going to get back to 350 because the ocean has absorbed most of the CO2 we have emitted. So when let's say we did go all electric cars and we didn't have any fossil fuel powered anything, he said the ocean is going to say, thank you very much. And it's going to burp out all this CO2. He said it's going to take a few hundred years probably for CO2 levels to drop back, but they're not even relevant anyway. The relevant issue is the Earth is not able to release heat. It's not functioning anymore. So it's totally disrupted. Drought here, downpours there, dead soil.
It's happening that we've got I don't want to keep the meeting too long, but we've got a site in the South Pacific. Can't think what it is. It's based in Hawaii, and they do all the warnings for all the emergency services in Australia and all around the Philippines and everything. They're connected with them. It's based in Hawaii, and they predict when storms are coming so people can protect their villages and their towns and everything. Even with the warnings, Australia has got flooding in areas. I'm 71, that has never happened in 71 years.
Yeah.
There is a disruption on the planet. I don't know what it is, but 40 or so years ago, I worked in New Zealand as a soil research technician, and the soil already in New Zealand was depleted. They were using something called superphosphate, And what happened was it made the first couple of years they had a wonderful growth of plants, but after that it locks onto the minerals, the chemicals. So then the carrot would grow, but it couldn't reach zinc and it couldn't reach magnesium, but it would still look like a carrot, but it wasn't a full
Right.
carrot nutrition. And I was so grieved by that, because farmers were then buying from the company I worked for, they would buy boron and zinc and you know, just that little bag this big to put over 20 or 30 acres, you know, because minerals are very small, but it was costing them money, and they were not all realizing that the superphosphate was doing it, or they wouldn't accept it. But basically, when I saw what Dr. Zach Bush is doing, and then I started reading and learning about soil, because I was an agricultural student as well, then the soil, you're right, people say it can't be that simple, but it is. The soil is dying. The little bacteria and the little fungus things that do all their work to provide food aren't there. They've been killed by the sprays and the chemicals, and so simple just to get nature back. This is my parents' farm. It had to be sold recently because my mum died and my brother and sister didn't want to hold on to it. But you know, we had to clear some of the bush, but we tried to use cow manure, you know, and things that were in nature to keep that soil going. Yeah, so it's a reality, and we belong to this earth. You know, our bodies are made from the foods we eat. So if we have an unhealthy planet, we're going to be unhealthy.
Yeah, you
And-
probably know that's why Zach Bush left practicing medicine, because he was seeing so much cancer, and
Yes.
he realized he was downstream and he had to find out why this was happening. And that's when
Exactly.
he got into the soil and helping farmers. And
It's-
yeah, you
it's
could
almost-
connect up with Walter Yenna and
Thank you very much. I've already put him in the
Yeah.
machine to
Yeah.
have a look at. But it is, and then you know, the air we're breathing and everything else. There's a lot of disruption. Everybody might have noticed that a lot of people aren't well. I have a friend who's a psychologist, and she had to employ university students over the COVID period in Australia. She has 12 practicing psychologists in her business, but they still had to employ university students who were nearly out of their time because they had such an overload of people from the lockdowns and the fear that they had from getting sick, and you know, so that's still endemic in our society. People have still got issues. It's because it's not just the COVID or the fear of COVID. The whole earth is reeling and rocking and to and fro. It's just not well. We can
Yeah.
tell. I don't know if you guys are getting strange, whether those wildfires you had in the United States and California, and then I think Canada had some amazing big burns. They're not
Yes.
something that any of us would have seen in our lifetime. This
No.
planet is well, and we need to heal it. And women, you know, Mother Earth, we can help heal the planet and heal each other and love those around us. I really think that's important. So thank you, because I can feel you're not doing this for money. You're doing this because you love doing it. I can tell that. I can
I
tell.
do love doing it. I just think it is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so
And that's where I connect back to the sacred feminine and the ancient original religion of Earth, which said intuitively knowing that, and we see it in Native Americans here in the United States, they're still trying to teach us that when you take something from Earth, you give something back. You give something back. This isn't this extractive, I'm going to be a billionaire and I don't really care if you sleep in the street, you know, and there's not enough clean air or clean water or whatever. So yeah, this is a passion that goes back to my childhood, and it goes to how I think about things spiritually, because to me, we are carrying a spiritual message as well. It's, you know, it's coming from that deep place that humans intuitively functioned from originally, practicing out in the open, celebrating their religious sensibility in groves of trees and things like that. And that whole religion got wiped out. And I was thrilled to find the work of Maria Gimbutas, where she dug up in Eastern Europe this entire feminine oriented culture. There were no weapons of war.
yeah.
No weapons of
Amazing.
war. So when they tell us, oh, violence is part of human nature, it's not. It's a part that's happened to us, but it's not our original nature, at least in that culture. And it was a long living culture that she found. Her books are available on Amazon if you're interested, or you can. One is called The Civilization of the Goddess, And another one is called The Language of a Goddess. She learned how to read all the spirals and which is basically the swastika is a sign of the wholeness of life, which got distorted. Thank you very much to the Nazis. But yeah, if you want to see her books, they're big books like this, and they're beautifully, beautifully illustrated with photographs of all that she found. And women were just so thrilled. She gave a talk in 1992 in Santa Monica about who we really are, what our original religion was, and it was peaceful. It was peaceful. And that's an important point. We want to not lose track of that part of ourselves that was one time honored very deeply. So, enough of my speech there.
It's good.
It's great. I hope to see you. I hope to talk to each of you individually, get on my calendar. So we can meet up again and do share.
Okay.
I'll put this up in an hour or so.
So much.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, guys,
Thank you.
bye.
Yeah.
Nice
I like our conversations too. Yeah.
Yes, they're really fun. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I didn't even know we were
Yeah.
going to evolve in this direction, so it's great. Yeah. Bye for
Me
now.
neither.
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
All right. Bye.